holidays can get a little competitive. Whose house is festive? Whose gingerbread house is eating the fastest? Whose gift is most thoughtful? Well, there's one part of the holidays that's not a competition, and that's who brings you those gifts. Because at the United States Postal Service, we deliver more online purchases to homes than anyone else in the country. That's right, anyone, even you-know-who. Ho, ho, ho! The United States Postal Service. Priority, you.
Blog Talk Radio.
You are now listening to Unpopular Popularity with Andrew Powell and John Stutsman here on New Media Central.
Like activist on activist, a whole sheet of LSD, but that ain't for the mattress. Ask your bitch, my stroke is immaculate. I send an insane, I'm flashy as an acid trip. Just
So it's about that time we finally are here. Me and John Stutsman, we were supposed to go live this morning for the first episode of Unpopular Popularity, but obviously that did not work out so well. But we are here now, and since that whole thing happened, I've had an opportunity to actually think about a lot of this stuff. I'm actually going to like this time slot a lot more. So I think that temporarily, because it's not going to be full-time, but temporarily we're going to do shows every Saturday night from 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. So be sure to check us out on New Media Central. Now, as you guys know, a lot of you have probably heard me already on the Andrew Powell Show, and I know somebody has already asked me, when you talk politics on the Andrew Powell Show, why do you need your own political radio show? And the answer to that is simply, if you talk politics on a radio show like a sports radio show, you have a tendency to alienate an audience. And I have a lot of liberals who listen to the show. And they don't listen for politics, they listen for sports. And I've heard a lot of complaints in the past about either people who just don't want to hear it, or you have the people that are like, all right, come on, why are you supporting a racist? That's basically what I've been hearing with all this stuff. So the Andrew Powell Show is going to be a Monday through Friday show still. It's going to be a sports radio show, just sports, because I'm trying to keep everything separate. As Bill from Long Island has said the other day on our show, separation of sports and politics. So that's basically what's going on. And this show right here will eventually be moved to a Monday through Friday show. So you will be able to get double doses of me if you are a fan. The Andrew Powell Show and Unpopular Popularity. Eventually you'll be able to get both of those shows Monday through Friday. Both of them will be on iTunes. Unpopular Popularity will be on YouTube. The Andrew Powell Show will eventually be on YouTube. We just got to find some people to put around the team. But that's what's going on with everything. And I was thinking about last night, how should I start out this show? What would be an appropriate start for the first episode of my political radio show? And I think that the best thing to do is to go over, first of all, introduce myself to everybody who doesn't know me, because I know I'm opening myself up to a completely new market right now as far as politics is concerned in the right, because I have shifted. And I'll get to that here in a minute. But I think that I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. I'm going to name the platform that I have. Well, first, this is the order that it's going to be in. I'm going to introduce myself. John will then introduce himself. I will then go over the platform. We both will go over the platform at the same time, and we will go over each topic at the same time. So that's how we're going to do this. So let me go ahead and start things off by introducing myself. As you guys know, my name is Andrew Powell. I am a sports editor, journalist, and also radio host for the Lock Haven Express, which is a mainstream newspaper here in Pennsylvania. And we cover Pittsburgh sports, Philadelphia sports, Pennsylvania sports, all that good stuff. So, yeah, sports pays the bills right now. I didn't get into political journalism until later, but I'm hoping that political journalism can't take off just like sports did, and I could do both. Yeah, I would love to do both. I'm interested in both. Sports has been very successful. Hopefully, political journalism is also very successful for me. But I got the Monday through Friday show as well with the Lock Haven Express now. As the Saturday show will eventually be Monday through Friday, Unpopular Popularity. With New Media Central, I'll be writing with New Media Central. So I do want to thank John Stutsman, who is my co-host for this show, and I also want to thank New Media Central as a whole for allowing me to use their platform to be able to write and to do a radio show and to do whatever comes in the future. So I do want to thank everybody, Bryden Proctor, Ian, I believe is one of the guys' name. Am I correct on that, John? Ian? Did I get that correct?
Yes,
Am I incorrect about that? Ian, Sal, yes.
Yes.
So all of these gentlemen, I do want to thank everybody for allowing me to use your platform. And I think you'll be able to get you'll be getting a good product as far as audio and journalism is concerned. But that is me. Also, as far as the political side of me, I did used to be a left-wing liberal. I did used to be a registered Democrat in the Democrat Party. And then I woke up to all of the lies. And I woke up to all the nonsense that I had been being told for years now. And I basically felt backstabbed. Yes, I was a Bernie supporter. Worst mistake of my life, in my opinion, was ever vote for Bernie Sanders. Because fraud.
Boo.
He's a complete up and down fraud. He's a fraud from the top of his head all the way down to his tippy toes. He's just a complete fraud. But I am now currently an independent. I am not registered in either party, but I will probably be eventually registering as a Republican. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not a 100% full-time conservative, and I am also not alt-right. So I don't want you to misconstrue me not being mainstream conservative with me being in the alt-right, because that is not the case. I have shifted to the right on several issues as far as a platform is concerned. But the thing is, and I don't want to say it's a problem, but the thing is I also still have left-wing views, such as marijuana. I do believe that marijuana should be legalized. And there's probably a couple more liberal ideologies that I can't necessarily think of right now, because I actually, and we'll get to the platform here in a few minutes, but I have shifted to the right on the majority of issues, whether racial inequality or the economy, taxes, whatever it may be, abortion, whatever it may be. I have shifted to the right on a lot of different issues. But we're going to get to that platform here in a second. Just wanted to introduce myself to the ladies and the gentlemen who do not know who I am, and I hope that we can enlighten you over here in the political realm. But be aware, I'm not going to lie about my agenda. My agenda will be right-wing motivated for the most part. I'm not going to lie to anybody. I'm not going to be like CNN and MSNBC, where they lie and lie and lie, and they're never honest about their agenda. If you want to lie, cool, but be honest about your agenda while doing it. That's the problem with the left. They're never honest about an agenda. They just lie. Blatantly lie. But we'll get to all that here in a few minutes. John Stutsman, you are my co-host. You currently work behind the scenes for New Media Central. I've known you for a while now. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience.
Yes, I'm John. I live in southern Indiana. I'm not going to say specifically where, because the doxing is a real thing. But yes, and there's a lot of people have been asking me, how are you already doing a show with this Andrew Powell guy that just interviewed you on his show days earlier? Me and Andrew have known each other for a couple months now, at least 2 or 3 months.
That's been so bad.
Has it been? Maybe.
Oh,
maybe. But several months anyway. So this is not a new thing, our relationship anyway. I'm John, like I said, southern Indiana. I've always kind of been more right-wing. I used to consider myself diehard Republican. As I've gotten older, and this might surprise even Andrew, I'm more of a independent/libertarian. I personally think Trump is the independent candidate. That's just me. I agree. Okay. I went to school for computer programming, and then I came back home, and that didn't work out. And then I went back to school again for psychology, and then I ended up having a stroke about 3 years ago, and I have not, due to the health reasons, I've not been able to work since then. Doctor says no, I don't like it, but that is what it is. Since I've always kind of had an interest in politics that was instilled in me as a young child from my dad, this kind of became something. It just kind of happened, to be honest with you. I met Bryden Proctor. Those of you that know me know I've been doing stuff for him for a little while now. I met him online, freak accident, happened to be a Trump supporter, and then that's when I started campaigning for Trump, and I helped Bryden do his thing. And then, I got on to NMC, and I swore then, I'm like, I am not going to be a content creator. I'm not going to, I don't think I have the ability to write. Don't think I can be on the air on a show. But then as things kept going, Bryden interviewed me once, or I was actually kind of a co-host for one of his shows, and it was really fun. I enjoyed it. I'm not going to say I'm a journalist because I'm really not. I'm just a highly opinionated person, as you'll find out as the show goes on. But I'm also very well self-educated. I read constantly. So if there's something you guys need me to read, send an email to me, john@newmediacentral.net. And, because I love reading about things that are going on and getting, my viewpoint on it. But, yeah, that's basically me in a nutshell. We'll get to the platform here, like Andrew said here in a little bit, but it's very similar to his. I do go a little left on some social issues, but here's the thing. So does Donald Trump. For all you Trump haters out there. Trump goes left on some of these same social issues. So just let that be known. And then I just want to close off my introduction by also thanking the same people. I want to thank Bryden for just working with me, let me work with him. He's taught me a lot in just the past 6 months or so that I've known him. He's become a good friend. And then for all the people at New Media Central that have been giving me all these opportunities to do things for them and have something that I can do with my time since I'm not able to work. And then I want to thank you, Andrew, for giving me the opportunity to actually be on the air on a show and be a part of a show finally. So that's it in a nutshell, I guess.
All right. So that we went ahead and get our introductions taken care of. You got to meet us, and now it's almost time to go ahead and get to our platforms and what exactly we believe. So if you listen to the sports show, you know the format. There are commercial breaks. Sometimes we need breaks during the show. The show will not really be any different. Now, it will be like the sports show if there's an interesting topic, if somebody interested calls in, or whatever the case may be. Segments will run longer as a result, and we will skip commercial breaks. But, I mean, if it's a night where we're going segment by segment by segment, there really isn't much going on, then we'll take commercial breaks like we usually do. It just all depends on what's going on. So take it by show basis. We will have commercial breaks. Here's an example for you. We'll be right back.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo. Americanism, not globalism. Americanism, not globalism. The era of economic surrender will finally be over. We will no longer surrender this country or its people to the false song of globalism.
They have gotten the political establishment and the media establishment to become pure, wanton henchmen of totalitarianism.
If you were a foreign power looking to weaken America, you couldn't do better than Hillary Clinton's economic agenda.
I think what the Chinese have done is really smart.
The skyscrapers went up in Beijing and many other cities around the world, while the factories and neighborhoods crumbled right here in Detroit.
It's all training us to accept less, lowering expectations, a post-industrial world, a new dark age. That's what the UN Biological Diversity Assessment 1996 calls for.
When we abandoned the policy of America first, we started rebuilding other countries instead of our own.
Not a world, Winston, that gets more beautiful and more technological and stronger. A world that gets uglier and stupider and more stunted.
That the government should allow Hillary Clinton to become president of the United States.
I voted for Hillary Clinton.
Well, I voted for Hillary. I guess I have to since I'm working for her as well.
You want an image of the future, Winston? It's a boot stomping on a human face forever.
Muslims are peaceful and tolerant people and have nothing whatsoever to do with terrorism.
Women are treated, discriminated against in all of these countries she took money against. Gays and lesbians are either executed or punished severely. They're mistreated. She claims to be their champion.
Don't look at me, Winston, and see the black circles around my eyes and see how ugly and weak I am, expressing myself and dying, and I torture people 18 hours a day, and I have a horrible life. That's the beauty of the satanic evil of the priest of power, ripping apart humanity. We're here to hurt humans. We're here to suck your guts out.
Americanism, not globalism. Americanism, not globalism. Americanism, not
Yo, you want sushi? I got sushi. I got the best sushi. This area's dry, man. You know that. I know that. Ain't nobody selling but me. I got tuna. I got salmon. I got sweet shrimp. I got the finest sashimi this area has seen in years. You need me and I need you. Let's make this work. You buy some sashimi, I'll throw in some rice paper, man. Totally free. Gratis. I got everything. Even California rolls, baby.
You wouldn't buy your sushi from this guy. So why would you buy your marijuana from him? MarijuanaDoctors.com is the only service that connects patients with real doctors for medical marijuana recommendations. Simple, confidential, safe. Visit MarijuanaDoctors.com or call 1-866-996-9333. That's MarijuanaDoctors.com, 1-866-996-9333. Book your appointment today.
I have not only seen but lived the marvels of what historians have called the American century. For while I take inspiration from the past, like most Americans, I live for the future. For just a few minutes, I hope you will let me talk about a country that is forever young. Fondest hope for each one of you, and especially for the young people here, that you will love your country not for her power or wealth, but for her selflessness and idealism. May each of you have the heart to conceive, the understanding to direct, and the hand to execute works that will make the world a little better for your having been here. Renew our pledge to day by day, person by person, make our country and the world a better place to live. When the nations of the world turn to us and say, America, you are the model of freedom and prosperity, we can turn to them and say, you ain't seen nothing yet.
You are now listening to Unpopular Popularity with Andrew Powell and John Stutsman here on New Media Central.
So for the first show, Bryden Proctor, he'll be joining us next segment. We'll be interviewing him. Kelvin Gravely, liberal political analyst, will be joining us later on in the show as well. And I know a lot of people to the right are going to be listening to the show since so let's be honest here, New Media Central is right-based, so they're going to have a right audience. But get to know Kelvin before you judge him, because he's not your typical leftist. And we probably should separate the terms of leftist and liberal. I think there's a bit of a difference here. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with liberalism if it's done in a right way. And Kelvin does it in a right. But I'm serious. I know you're going to laugh at me, but if it's done in a right way, if you truly believe morally that you're doing the right thing and it's not to push an evil agenda like Hillary Clinton and George Soros and these other leftists, is there necessarily a problem with liberalism? And I'm not talking about the millennial pansies. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about people like Kelvin who can contribute facts to an intellectual conversation. That's what I'm referring to.
Sure. Okay.
You don't
we'll
believe it, do you? You do not take me serious when I say that.
I think liberalism is a mental illness. I really do.
All right. Well, we'll ask Kelvin about that later on in the show. Then, does he think that liberalism is a mental illness? And because I am pretty sure that Kelvin thinks that conservatism is a mental illness. So this will be an interesting discussion when he calls into the show. I will have Kelvin on a lot. I'm gonna warn you guys now. Kelvin will be on the show a lot because I debate with this guy a lot. He's probably my favorite person to talk politics with. He's that intelligent of a guy when it comes to political discussion. So don't be surprised if he's on from a week-to-week basis, pretty much, because I just love talking politics with the guy. But let's go ahead and get to our platform. And I think this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to state my opinion on the subject, and then John will make his, and then we'll go to the next topic, and we'll continue to do that. So let's go ahead and start with the most conservative one of them all, probably. Let's start with the Second Amendment. And here is my opinion on the Second Amendment. I'm all for the people having their guns. I honestly have no issue with it. People to the left always push their anti-gun agenda every time there's a shooting that makes it to the mainstream news. But if you look at the statistics, the majority of gun violence comes from illegal guns, not registered guns. So banning guns is not going to solve anything. So taking everybody's guns away and changing the Constitution, it's not going to do anything whatsoever. I'm for freedom. Let people have their guns. But I can say, is there really a reason for anybody to have an AR-15? You can have it. I have no issue with you having it. I just don't see the point of you having it. Other than that, though, I have no issue with it. Let people have their guns. John, go ahead.
Well, let me just start by saying that you kind of proved your point both right and wrong there about the AR-15 thing. Just the fact that we live in America should not matter whether you think it's a purposeful item for someone to own or not. Who cares whether someone thinks you should? I mean, there's a reason for it. This is America, in the Constitution we have the right to bear arms, and the purpose for that right to bear arms. And people always think I'm a nutcase for this, but the purpose is so that we can overthrow our government when we get if a tyrant happens to get it, and it's like almost like another last-ditch thing that our forefathers that were brilliant planned. They said, and they say, well, our militia in the Constitution, militia is the people. It's not our federally backed army. We are the militia, and we should be armed enough, which we aren't. We haven't been in forever. We should be armed enough that we can overthrow our government if we need to. It wasn't about muskets or whatever people say it was. That's not what the Second Amendment was about. You need to read the Constitution again and in context. So yeah, I think everyone should be, build on it. It's safer. Criminals aren't going to stop getting the guns. The people that are doing the killing aren't going to stop getting the guns just because it's banned or just because you have a lengthier vetting process to get one. It's not going to keep the criminals from getting it just as easy. So, there's my 2 cents on the Second Amendment.
Next topic on the platform discussion, the economy. For the economy, well, obviously we need jobs. And I'm not completely sure that trickle-down economics, what Trump wants to do, will work because it's been statistically proven that cutting taxes for the rich does not necessarily create employment. But I do think a part of the budget should be put in the infrastructure, which Trump is doing. That will create jobs. I think the marijuana should be legalized. That will create jobs. And also add amazing revenue stream through profits and taxes. Do you see what's going on in Colorado right now? They have a state tax cap, which means the government can only make so much money in tax dollars. The money over the tax cap would then be given back to the citizens, which then gives them extra money to spend into the economy. If we legalize the industry at the state and federal level and implement caps at each level, the economy would boom. And I even think that prostitution should be legalized. I know that mainstream conservatism would disagree with me about that, but I am very liberal on that. I do think that prostitution should be legalized. It will add money, and it will create jobs. Let's face facts. Facts don't care about your feelings, in the words of Ben Shapiro. So let's be honest here. The same thing would apply to that. New industries like these would create thousands of jobs. Big industries like these would create hundreds of thousands of jobs, if not millions of jobs, if we legalize at a federal level. You invest a good amount into different projects, create jobs, and then boom. If people have money to spend into the economy then booms as a result. It's actually that simple. Do I believe in redistribution of wealth to the rich? No. I believe in capitalism, and I believe in the American dream, but I do think that everybody should pay their fair share in taxes. But let's not get ahead of ourselves and go into communism. I don't think that we should be doing any of that nonsense. I think that the rich all the way to the poor should get tax cuts because everybody's paying ridiculous taxes right now. But put tax percentages at a more fair rate. If you make more money, you should pay more money in taxes. It's that simple. It's simple logic. And that can happen. Everybody can get tax cuts. That can actually happen, and the economy can still boom as long as our budget is managed properly and we do invest money into the proper project. That is how I see the economy. That's how I see the economy booming. Do you agree or do you disagree, John?
A little bit of both. Mostly agree, though. I mean, let's be honest about Donald Trump and his tax plan. He is not wanting to just give a tax cut to the rich. Let's be honest there. The facts are it's just not a tax cut for just the rich. There's just no other way to put it. So, it's just not. He's wanting to give pretty much the middle class is going to get the biggest round of tax cuts, which they should.
That's not what I was saying, though. I agree with you. Factually, he wants to give tax cuts to everybody, but I don't think corporate America needs a big tax cut as the middle class. I mean, let's be honest here. If you make more money, you probably contribute more into the economy, correct?
If you make more, true. But I tell you what, these companies are not going to they're not going to give up more money if they're not also paying less taxes as well. Let's be honest. The point of business is to make money. There should be nothing wrong with that. We should not villainize corporations and companies for wanting to profit and make money and have great lives. They've worked, and everyone tells me, people didn't work for this money. They didn't work. Yes, they did. I'd like to see any of you that disagree with me go and be a CEO of a company and tell me that they don't deserve every penny of what they make. Because they absolutely do. They worked very, very, very hard to get there. Harder than any one of you out there that aren't a CEO of a company, guaranteed, myself included. So let's just cut that nonsense out. As far as legalizing marijuana, absolutely it should be legalized. It's way safer than alcohol. I mean, what's the deal, guys? It's probably the way that it's traditionally used. It's probably safer than smoking cigarettes, to be honest with you, and it has health benefits for people as well. Let's tax the heck out of it. Create the industry, tax the heck out of it, and there you've got a huge tax revenue. And you're also helping to relieve some crime issues as well. Trickle down works, but you just can't go full force trickle down. Is kind of my whole basis. It works if you hybridize it a little bit. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And I don't think if anyone out there, like I said, I'm very opinionated. If any of you out there think that spending a bunch of money in infrastructure is a bad idea, you're just wrong. I'm just telling you right now, you're wrong. We absolutely need to spend a lot of money on infrastructure. just because we need better infrastructure, number one. But number two, it will create a ton of jobs. Ton.
Next topic is education. I was just making sure you were done. I wasn't sure if you were done or not. But the next topic is education. Let's go ahead and discuss education. And here's when communism comes into play, right? The whole Bernie Sanders 101 logic with free education. And free education is complete nonsense. To the Bernie people who want free education, let me ask you a couple of questions. Who are you to take money away from teachers who spent years busting their ass to pay for their degree? Who are you to force them into slavery? Another question. Where are you getting the money to pay for this? From the 1%? Who are you to take money from people who worked for their money? Who are you to blatantly steal from individuals? But I thought the left was all about morals. No, you believe in communism, ignorance, and are against American freedom. As far as college costs go, it's actually very simple to lower the cost. Stop charging $300 for a textbook that you can't even resell. Stop charging nonsense prices that are meant for large profit. Make tuition lower. It can be done. Look at the statistics on how much revenues universities bring in. It's amazing. They make millions upon millions of dollars. You can lower your prices and still be able to afford good pay for your faculty and staff. So take it easy on the kids. But let's not get ahead of ourselves and go to communism either. Be a little bit more fair with millions upon millions of revenue. Also, stop this nonsense teaching going on at universities about trigger warnings and microaggression in safe spaces. Universities actually have black-only safe spaces, self-segregation, and extremely racist. Safe spaces where you can bring your pets, microaggressions. We preach tolerance and peace, but we'll bash your head in if you offend us, or we'll call the cops on you if you offend us. What is this? We're making future generations, I should say, of society a bunch of lazy, entitled pansies. So let's cut it out. And all of this is a product of the left. None of this is from the right. This is all a product of the left. We're literally making people go insane with this kind of teaching. Just stop it and lower the cost. Can we get the left out of the schools and get the cost out of these schools, and we will be extremely fine. The problem with universities is everybody is trying to profit millions upon millions of dollars, and there's no need to be profiting millions upon millions of dollars when your number one goal is supposed to be educating the children. But that's my whole view on education, John.
Well, no, I want to hear what you have to think about K through 12, though, because you focused on universities, which is a problem. But I personally don't think everyone should be getting a college degree anyway. So, what's your view on K through 12 education?
My view on K through 12 education, do I think that everybody is meant for college? No, I do not think that everybody is meant for college. Let's be honest, not everybody has ambition, and not everybody has the drive. Not everybody has the work ethic to be able to accomplish college. As far as K through 12, when we're talking about Common Core and all this stuff, I'm going to leave it up to a state-by-state. I really honestly don't have a full position on K through 12 education because there's too many cities to dissect information from. There's too many public schools and private schools to dissect information from. Universities is a lot easier, and let's be honest here, universities are the biggest problem right now because of all the college debt that we have going on. But as far as K through 12, I don't really have a full-out I would agree with getting rid of Common Core. I would agree with that. Other than that, I don't really have a position on K through 12.
Okay, fair enough. No, because there's kind of a correlation between the two in my viewpoint on education. The reason we have all the liberalism in college education is because we've let the federal government control and run K through 12 education so that from the very beginning, kids are liberalized with this liberal way of thinking from the very beginning in kindergarten. Oh, we don't want to hurt your feelings. Everyone gets a trophy. Don't be mean now, Bobby. You don't want to say that girl's fat or overweight or whatever. I mean, it's ridiculous. But they're trained from the beginning, and then those kids become so hypersensitive to anything they say, to anything anyone says to them outside in the real world. But then they go to college, and then that's where you get to the point now where they've got all these safe spaces because they just can't handle it. They're literally going insane right now, college kids are, because Donald Trump won the presidency. Like their minds are just blown that that's how it turned out. And it's because they didn't learn correctly in K through 12. As far as free college education, you are absolutely right. I agree with you 100%, Andrew. And things like $300 textbooks are ridiculous. I mean, let's get real. Of course, those companies need to make money. They need to make profit. There's ways to do that without that. Take the government out of it. There's a lot of lobbying and things going on there that causes them to raise their prices and lets them raise their prices. That all needs to be stopped. But my thing is college education. All these people say, well, everyone needs to have a college education. No, everyone does not need to have a college education. Everyone does not deserve a college education. You have to actually work very, 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 very hard to be able to get a college education, to even be able to get into college. And that's where we've failed. Everyone just thinks they can just go right to college, and everyone thinks they have to go to college, or it's just not how it is. So then they think, well, I have to go to college and I have to pay for it. Well, you don't have to go to college. Like, people need to get it through their heads. These millennials, these young people, you do not have to go to college. You just don't.
Yes, and let's be honest here. You can be successful. You can be successful in society today without a college education. All it takes nowadays is connection. So you don't even necessarily need a college education. So why should we provide everybody a free college education? And also to make the point, if you get something for free and you have to pay for something, you're more likely to take care of the thing that you had to pay for. Like, let's be completely honest. And I don't want to go towards people who are just going to party. I'd rather my tax dollars not go to people.
Well, and then you have the issue that everyone has a college education then. So then companies, employers, they can't distinguish between who actually deserves a job or not because everyone has this education. Everyone has it. So they can't say, well, because you have an education, you've worked harder, you've done better, you've worked to accomplish this goal of getting a diploma. We're going to pick you. You know what I mean? Like you give them out to everyone and they're meaningless. Kind of like how our high school diplomas are right now. You give them out to everybody and they're meaningless. But you're absolutely right. That's a good point.
So up next, we'll get to the rest of our platform later on in the show. Up next, New Media Essentials editor at large. Actually, I believe that he actually got a promotion. He's no longer editor at large, is he, John? Doesn't he have a bigger position now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, he's a columnist. He's a radio host. He's a great guy, very intelligent guy. Speaks the truth about everything. Is not politically correct. That's one of the biggest reasons why I am a fan of this guy's show. Was listening the other night. What was it? About CNN tried to pay him to shield for them. Love that.
Oh, you like that? Wasn't that a great show?
I loved it.
Oh, I loved it too. I loved it.
Bryden, if you don't know what the show is, write about Bryden. Go to newmediaessentials.net. You can hear all of his podcasts. Great guy, great show. We get to him coming up next.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo. Americanism, not globalism. Americanism, not globalism. The era of economic surrender will finally be over. We will no longer surrender this country or its people to the false song of globalism.
They have gotten the political establishment and the media establishment to become pure, wanton henchmen of totalitarianism.
If you were a foreign power looking to weaken America, you couldn't do better than Hillary Clinton's economic agenda.
I think what the Chinese have done is really smart.
The skyscrapers went up in Beijing and many other cities around the world, while the factories and neighborhoods crumbled right here in Detroit.
It's all training us to accept less, lowering expectations, a post-industrial world, a new dark age. That's what the UN Biological Diversity Assessment 1996 calls for.
When we abandoned the policy of America first, we started rebuilding other countries instead of our own.
Not a world, Winston, that gets more beautiful and more technological and stronger. A world that gets uglier and stupider and more stunted.
That the government should allow Hillary Clinton to become president of the United States.
I voted for Hillary Clinton.
Well, I voted for Hillary. I guess I have to since I'm working for her as well.
You want an image of the future, Winston? It's a boot stomping on a human face forever.
Muslims are peaceful and tolerant people and have nothing whatsoever to do with terrorism.
Women are discriminated against in all of these countries she took money against. Gays and lesbians are either executed or punished severely. They're mistreated. She claims to be their champion.
Don't look at me, Winston, and see the black circles around my eyes and see how ugly and weak I am, expressing myself and dying, that I torture people 18 hours a day, and I have a horrible life. That's the beauty of the satanic evil of the priest of power, ripping apart humanity. We're here to hurt humans. We're here to suck your guts out.
Americanism, not globalism. Americanism, not globalism. Americanism, not
Yo, you want sushi? I got sushi. I got the best sushi. This area's dry, man. You know that. I know that. Ain't nobody selling but me. I got tuna. I got salmon. I got sweet shrimp. I got the finest sashimi this area has seen in years. You need me and I need you. Let's make this work. You buy some sashimi, I'll throw in some rice paper, man. Totally free. Gratis. I got everything. Even California rolls, baby.
You wouldn't buy your sushi from this guy, so why would you buy your marijuana from him? MarijuanaDoctors.com is the only service that connects patients with real doctors for medical marijuana recommendations. Simple, confidential, safe. Visit MarijuanaDoctors.com or call 1-866-996-9333. That's MarijuanaDoctors.com, 1-866-996-9333. Book your appointment today.
I have not only seen but lived the marvels of what historians have called the American century. For while I take inspiration from the past, like most Americans, I live for the future. For just a few minutes, I hope you will let me talk about a country that is forever young. Fondest hope for each one of you, and especially for the young people here, that you will love your country not for her power or wealth, but for her selflessness and idealism. May each of you have the heart to conceive, the understanding to direct, and the hand to execute works that will make the world a little better for your having been here. Renew our pledge to day by day, person by person, make our country and the world a better place to live. When the nations of the world turn to us and say, America, you are the model of freedom and prosperity, we can turn to them and say, you ain't seen nothing yet.
You are now listening to Unpopular Popularity with Andrew Powell and John Stutsman here on New Media Central.
Now joining us is Bryden Proctor. But do you not like that, Bryden?
Well, that was great. I loved the pod I could do without, but I mean the Reagan got me a little emotional. But as you were saying before the show, I did actually get promoted. I'm now senior editor. Justin Martin was just promoted to my previous position, but I am senior editor over at New Media Central. So that means that everybody has to listen to me no matter what.
Well, absolutely. Let me ask you, though, your problem with pot. What exactly is your problem with marijuana? Because even though I'm more to the right nowadays, I am still to the left when it comes to marijuana legalization. What is your issue with pot?
No. I voted for it to be legal here in California. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a shitty. Crummy. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to curse on here. A crummy thing that makes people okay with being lazy. You know, I don't think it's. I don't think any substances are the best thing for you to do. But yeah, pot just makes you okay with being a little lazy and whatever. I mean, everybody's got their vice. Sometimes people smoke pot and they get motivated. So whatever's going to do it for you, I think that's fine. Whatever keeps you going, whatever keeps you going to work, I'm okay with. And it should not land you in prison for years and years, which is why I voted for the legalization of it.
Amen, brother.
All right. Yeah, I can go ahead and take that answer. I'm perfectly content with that answer. So let me ask you, Jeff Sessions, the latest going on with Donald Trump's cabinet. What is your overall thoughts on Sessions and the cabinet overall?
Oh, boy. Yeah, I was recording the interview session of tomorrow's show of Right to Bryden tonight, where we went over the cabinet. And let me tell you, I couldn't have picked it better myself so far. Jeff Sessions as Attorney General was fantastic. You thought that Donald Trump wasn't going to double down on this and actually pull through with the immigration policy and deporting the illegals? Congratulations. Here's your Jeff Sessions. Nobody has spoken out against illegal immigration harder than Jeff Sessions when we're looking at the legislative branch. I mean, he's been a big guy from the beginning. He's had our guy Trump's back from the beginning. And, there was the complaints about, they hired all the lobbyists. Well, you know who hired the lobbyists? Chris Christie. And he's fired, and so are all the lobbyists. Yep. Mike Pence is taking this over. So what we're seeing, this development in the cabinet, is through many, many different ways. And we're building. I mean, he's only been president-elect for 11 days. We are seeing the guy start to at least try to come through on his campaign promises. So I'm very, very excited about the Jeff Sessions pick as Attorney General. I'm very excited about many of these picks. I mean, even Mike Huckabee, who I love to death, being the ambassador to Israel, and his first move is, I'm moving the embassy to Jerusalem. Like, all of this is so great. Michael Flynn, Priebus nobody cares about, but, he just earned his job. These are great picks. These are great picks. My dream team would be a little bit more far right than this, but, they're not neocons. This is fantastic, Andrew. John, this is fantastic. This is really, really good stuff.
But Hitler's dead, right? You can't pick him for your cabinet. You get that, right?
Well, well, that's the thing too. Apparently they're all white nationalists. That's news to me. Yeah, they're all white nationalists and anti-Semites. Apparently, that's really news to me. I didn't know. They served their whole careers this whole time, and then just now it turns out they're white nationalists. So it's silliness. But I love Attorney General. So good. We're actually going to hopefully start to enforce our immigration laws. And Sessions is the perfect guy to do that. And it was kind of out of left field. I didn't see him getting that position. I thought he'd have another position. But, this is what we're dealing with when we're dealing with the wild card. We're dealing with the cowboy of Donald Trump. It's something different, man. We're going to think we know what he's doing, and he's going to do something different. And I just hope it works out.
John, before you go, to follow up the question about his cabinet, what is your opinion on the possibility of Mitt Romney, Bryden? I'm not understanding Mitt Romney.
Well, that was something that will be covered in the interview with Dylan from Dylan's Daily Show. I wasn't sold on Romney. I wasn't sold on him. But I think he's probably going to be Secretary of State, and I'm not thrilled about it. But it does make sense from the idea that foreign leaders know who he is because he ran for president. They are willing to talk with him. And the thing is, the guy is experienced. And, yes, he did come out very strongly against Trump, but so did many, many other people. And you even see Ted Cruz, who I'm hoping gets that Scalia position in the Supreme Court, come out against Donald Trump. I could see Romney being an okay Secretary of State. I don't know. I was not sold on it until my friend Dylan really kind of brought me home on it. He is experienced. It is a very, very important position. The people that he's worked with are going to listen to him, and foreign leaders are experienced with him. And I don't think that he's so dead set on this never Trump thing, as many aren't anymore. I think it was just playing politics. So, well, now he's going to play politics in the good way. He's not going to run again for president. You don't have to worry about, somebody like Paul Ryan, who is going to eventually run for president again. Well, he never ran for president. He ran for VP. But Paul Ryan wants to be president. Mitt Romney is not going to run again. He's not going to. So we don't have to worry about him sabotaging the Trump administration, like somebody like Bolton, like a neocon like Bolton would do to help his buddies out. I think that Mitt Romney might end up being a fantastic pick for Secretary of State. I'd love to have somebody better, but the thing is, who else is there? Who else is there? And that was the question proposed to me. Who else is there? So name somebody better, because I can't think of one.
You don't think Giuliani would be better?
No. Giuliani has too many ties to Qatar, and just overall, he would be better. I'd give him Interior or something like that. I wouldn't give him Secretary of State. Secretary of State is a very, very, very important position, and you've got to be able to communicate with the world's leaders, and you have to be able to communicate with the legislative branch. The legislative branch already really likes Romney. Romney's going to be the guy. Believe me.
I disagree.
Us three sitting here going, I don't know about Romney. You can't believe they've had that conversation for 11 days right now. And I think Romney's going to be the guy, and I think he's the perfect guy to do it. He's a charismatic guy. People don't mind seeing him. I turned around on Romney. I've turned around on him. He'll be fine.
Do you hear the cringe?
He'll be fine. Who else are you going to put in there? You going to put Giuliani? You want to see his stupid face all the time? No, it's not going to happen. It's going to be Romney. He's going to do a good job.
So we've settled that Mitt Romney is going to be a Secretary of State. Okay, I kind of want to shift topics here. You were telling me something yesterday about the whole hashtag Trump Pump movement being a joke. Or do you care to elaborate on this? Explain exactly what the Trump Cup phenomenon is.
There's no real phenomenon. As far as I know, Trump Cup was, hey, let's go to Starbucks, and when they ask what the name is, say Trump. If they refuse, record it. This was started by Joe Biggs, but was made famous by Baked Alaska. And yeah, it's a bunch of silliness. I think it's a stupid protest move because it's like, oh, good, a company that did not support Donald Trump, let's give them money now. I don't go to Starbucks. I get me some coffee beans, that's or a local coffee shop. It's a silly little thing. It's something like making them write Merry Christmas on it. They're so used to it at this point. It really doesn't matter. It's fucking retarded. Like Baked Alaska, I love you to death, buddy. He's a good friend, but he's that's retarded. It's a stupid thing to say. It's a stupid thing to do. I don't know. Don't go to Starbucks. How's that? Don't go to companies that didn't back Trump.
Well, but here's the thing. It's not meant as necessarily a protest. It's making a point. These people aren't going to ever stop going to Starbucks, and they're not telling people to boycott and stop going to Starbucks. The point is when you do go to Starbucks, you make them face the reality that they are just, whatever reason, are just so terrified of. Like, I'm all for it.
Who, the cashiers?
Well, you know that
that's
like
99.9%
of the baristas are libtards that probably went home after the election or go home every night and cry into their pillow because Hillary Clinton didn't win.
In Wyoming.
And their world's all crumbling.
In Wyoming, John? In Wyoming?
Absolutely.
No,
absolutely.
It's stupid. Yeah, over here in Los Angeles, yeah, probably. The thing is, no, it's a stupid little publicity stunt that my buddy Baked Alaska put on that got on CNN. It's totally retarded. It has no real use. He's a great guy as a person, but no, it's retarded. It's a hashtag. It's useless. It doesn't matter. It holds no water. It's dumb. I'm not.
Well,
I'm not.
I will say we need to not credit it to Baked Alaska. Yeah, he made it famous.
He's the guy who started it. Joe Biggs. It was his idea. Joe Biggs of InfoWars. It was his idea. Then he gave it to Baked Alaska, and Baked Alaska ran with it. That's where it came from.
Right, well, fair enough.
Bryden, last question. We'll go ahead and get out of here after this, but it's a two-part question that has to deal with the universities across this country. The fact that, first off, what do you think about the black-only self-segregated safe spaces? And also, what do you think about the New York Times releasing a poll that says that 40% of millennials believe that if you say something offensive that is outside of the left opinion, that you should be forced to go to jail?
Well, those are two really different class codes. As far as black-only safe spaces, that's self-segregation. I mean, like, if you're into that, I guess, like, there's a big movement to do that within the Black Lives Matter movement. But that's Martin Luther King is rolling in his grave. You know, like, I have a dream that we will have safe spaces for all the black kids and fuck all the white people. I need to quit cursing. F all the white people was not part of that speech. So that's insane is what it is. This self-segregation, you can't call for self-segregation and then yell at Richard Spencer for saying that he wants white countries. You know, it's you either have civic nationalism or ethno-nationalism. And if that's what they want, then more power to them to call for it, but don't call everybody else racist. Because what they're saying is, I don't want to be around white people. I don't want to be around Asians. I don't want to be around Indians. Things like that. And that's, if that's what you believe, more power to you, have fun. But that's an insane idea for them to have the double standard of it's fine for us and not for anyone else. And I don't know. I mean, it's not up to me to say who's right or who's wrong when it comes to things like that. It is up to me to go, well, that seems exactly like this. So it seems to me like you and the KKK, Black Lives Matter and the KKK should get along entirely well. They should go, well, we just don't be around each other. Let's convince everybody else. Like that seems to me like that's what should happen. And I've forgotten the second question because I was so perturbed with the first one. To be honest, why is David Duke not endorsing the KKK and saying, or not endorsing Black Lives Matter and saying like, yeah, all those guys, I agree with them. Let's just have separate partitioned, ethnically partitioned states. It seems like everybody get along, on these extreme ends. I don't know whether or not teaming up and trying to convince the rest of us.
That would be amazing.
I'm with you on that one.
If David Duke, though, came out in avocation of that, something that black people are promoting, and he agreed with that, the reaction to that, I would pay to see that. That would be an amazing reaction. Press reacts to that.
Well, Andrew, Ramsey Paul, who the SPLC calls the smiling white nationalist, has come out and supported Black Lives Matter for their wanting ethnic partition, and has said he agrees with them and says give them their own space because that's what we've been begging for forever. So I don't see why the KKK and Black Lives Matter don't team up and try to convince everyone else because that's what they want.
They both want the same thing.
Yeah, it's an insane thing for them not to. Like heavily Orthodox Jews and white nationalists. I don't see why they're not teaming up and saying like, all right, all the Jews, you come to Israel, and all the whites, you stay over there in the Western world. It's silly for them not to team up. I mean, but anybody calling for that is just in the same rank. They're ethno-nationalists. Whether or not ethno-nationalism is wrong or right, I don't know. But I can tell you that it's the same junk. I mean, that's my answer to that. But I'm sorry, what was the second question? Because I got a little worked up. So I'm so sick of that question.
Yeah, hey, it's perfectly fine, especially for the first episode. So we definitely appreciate the content. But that last question for you, the New York Times released a poll that said that 40% of millennials believe that if you offend them, then they should go to jail. The person who offended that millennial should go to jail. 40% in this generation agree with that, Bryden.
Well, send me to jail, faggot.
That's your generation, Bryden.
I know that's my generation, and I can say faggots on here. I can't say the other curse words, but I can say faggots because I am one. Send me to jail. I don't know. That's ridiculous. To jail somebody for hate speech, as they call it, is insane because you can't decide what is hate speech and what is free speech. I don't like it when they shout pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. If they offended me, do I get to send them to jail? No, that's not the case, and that's not what they want. Here is the thing about this massive government oversight that they love so much, and they're freaking out about now because they realize that they gave it to Obama, and they go, he's on our side, and then Trump comes along, and they go, oh, my goodness, he's not on our side. We shouldn't have given the executive branch so much power. It goes in a seesaw, okay? Like, look, Trump is going to win again in 2020 because everybody always does. And then more than likely, if they keep this up, you're going to see President Pence or President Rand Paul, something like that.
Ivanka.
I'm predicting Paul. Ivanka would be nice, but that's not going to happen. We don't listen. We don't do dynasties. We're real Republicans. We don't do dynasties.
Come back to the Clintons.
Yeah. It matters when it's not in their favor, and I don't like what they say, and they wouldn't want to be jailed for that either. I don't like Black Lives Matter at all. For 40% of them, being upset about it, I don't give an F. 50% of millennials believe socialism is the way to go. So it just kind of shows you that millennials aren't the people you should poll because they're idiots who don't have any jobs yet. And once they get jobs under a Trump economy, once they get jobs and start paying taxes, they're going to, what's nice? Capitalism, saying whatever the F I want. And, I all of a sudden don't care about black trans race wheelchairs. It's stupid. It's stupid. It's so stupid. It's so stupid that, like,
it is stupid.
It makes
but,
me
Bryden,
think
you have to remember it's current year, so it only matters what offends them. It doesn't matter what offends them. It only matters what offends them. You remember, it is current year.
Well, what offends them is apparently the law of the land, because I got banned from 2 Facebook accounts today and been locked out of my Twitter account once this week. So, I don't care. I'm going to minds.com. I'm going to gab.ai. You can check my stuff out over there. Actual free speech platforms that actually matter. I just don't care. I don't care about their sensitive little feelings. I'd be mean to them on purpose. That's all I do. I'm just mean to them on purpose so that they'll ban me from stuff and I can come back and go, it's the internet, idiot.
Yes, thank you. That makes me happy because I'm mean to people on purpose now too, and I used to not be that way, but they have pushed and driven so hard that I have to be mean to them just out of spite.
Yeah, I'll send you on Facebook. The only reason you're mean to people because people are mean to you. Let's be honest. I mean, you consistently get called a racist, consistently get called a bigot. I mean, it's just part of the territory. I mean, I've got called those names as well. Just part of the territory of being a Trump supporter and also being to the right. But Bryden Proctor, senior editor, I got to get used to saying that, senior editor at New Media Central. He's also a columnist and journalist. Make sure you check out his show, Right to Bryden. You said you was going to have a new episode coming out sometime here soon?
Yeah, that'll be tomorrow. Every Thursday and Sunday for the most part. Yeah.
He has a blog rant coming out tonight.
Yeah, and there's a video coming out tonight. I mean, John handles all of this stuff. But right before I go, I'm sorry, I don't want to eat up all your time, but I do want to say all of this, like Trump is giving a platform to hate. Trump is giving a platform to hate. Well, the thing is, what they've done is push people to actually hate. So that's not Trump. That's the left telling people, like, hey, get more in touch with your whiteness, all of this. And then they find some shady characters who might be a little more hateful. That's what happened to black people. That's exactly what happened to black people. So, I mean, I don't know. That's just I'll make a video about it soon.
Right. Well, make sure everybody in the audience goes and check that out tonight. Also, a show tomorrow. We do say you join the show, Bryden.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Bryden.
Yes, sir. All right, so let's go ahead and get back to our platform before we get to the liberal intellect, a.k.a. the liberal political analyst of Kelvin Gravely Jr. That should be an interesting interview, especially after some of the stuff that John has said, especially the terminology of libtard and liberalism is a mental disease. So this should be a very interesting interview to approach here in a few minutes. Let's get the energy, John. I don't mind that we continue to use fossil fuels, but eventually we may have to get, actually not even may, we have to get away from fossil fuels without a devastation to the job market. That is very key. We have to do it, but also not cause a creation of job losses at the same time. We just can't do it. We can have the oil companies to transition into an alternative, keep the job safe that way. But that takes research and studies, which takes taxpayer dollars. So you would have to fill it into the budget, but also not expand the $20 trillion debt that Obama has put us in. So it's a tricky situation. It's deeper than just climate change or no climate change. And as far as climate change is concerned, a lot of the data that previously started the whole climate change debate has actually been proven to be false, according to a study in England. So is it necessarily true? I don't know. I'm not too sure on the actual concept of climate change. But I do agree that we eventually need to get into alternative energy sources, but also not devastate the economy and the job market. But I mean, climate change be real, could be real, but a lot of the data that's been reported earlier that caused this whole thing has been proven to be false. So who the hell knows? But John, what is your platform on energy?
Well, here's the thing, Andrew. We need all the above, honestly. And it can be done. The switchover can be done without hurting the economy.
Well, that's the problem, though, because fossil fuels are eventually going to run out. They're eventually going to be extinct on this earth. We can't continue to stick with it.
It's not going to happen in your and I's lifetime, nor our grandkids. I mean, let's be honest. Eventually, the earth is going to not exist anyway. It's going to happen. You can't protect it forever. Eventually it's going to die. I mean, even if you're a Christian, you know it's going to end. Like, it's just not going to work forever. So, I have a friend, I have a really, really dear friend. He's a meteorologist, and he's very concerned about climate change too. And from his studies, and this is a very smart man, very, very good at what he does. He's the best meteorologist I've ever met in my entire life, and he absolutely does say that the Earth is warming. And I don't want to misspeak for him, but part of it is a natural process. And this is what I believe it really is more of what's going on myself. It's a natural process. It was going to warm and cool as it wants to anyway, as part of nature. The earth is going to end anyway. We need to stop trying to protect it so much so that we're affecting our lives in the now. I get it. We need clean air, we need clean water.
We can at least try.
What's that?
We can at least
try.
Well,
you can try. You can try. But what you do with alternative energies is you don't let the government mess with it. Don't put tax money in it. You let the free market decide what's going to happen. That's how you do it without affecting the economy. If there's money to be made there, then money will be made there, and people will go that way. But the reason why it's not happening now is because the government, right here where I live, a few years ago, there was a failed alternative energy company. I think they got their funding partially from the whole Obama alternative energy grant thing, whatever. They came. We gave them all kinds of tax abatements, but gave them, loans here at our city level. And guess what? They defaulted. We still can't get our money back from them. Never made a thing. Never created a job. Nothing. And this is why you can't get the government involved. You have to let them do their thing, and if they're going to make money, they're going to make money. If they're going to fail, they're going to fail. Eventually, someone's going to figure it out. So if you get the government involved, it's just going to fail, and then us, the taxpayers, are going to have to pay for it every time. We got to continue using fossil fuels. I mean, we just have to.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Let's do one more platform, and then we'll go ahead and go to break, and then we'll get to the interview with Kelvin. Let's get to foreign policy. That'll be our last one of this particular segment. Foreign policy, here's my take on foreign policy. We need to make sure we have the strongest military in the world. When you see what Russia and China is doing with their militaries and the fact that we still have unstable relationships with these countries, we need to make sure we are at the top. And also use the military if you really need it. Don't just go start wars for no reason like Bush did. Only use it when you really need it. Next, we need to take care of ISIS, plain and simple. Trigger warning liberal. Islam is an evil religion. I've seen the Quran and the content in that book. And that religion is pure evil. I don't know how it's possible to even be a quote-unquote moderate Muslim with the beliefs of this religion. Now, am I Islamophobic? Absolutely not. One of my closest friends is a Muslim, and we agree on this issue. He agrees that the ideology of the religion of Islam is an issue, especially when it gets radicalized, but overall it is an issue, the whole religion as a whole. And that's a Muslim saying that. It's not just me. A Muslim who, by the way, voted for Donald Trump. But how do we take care of ISIS? It's not a militaristic issue. It's an ideological issue. I can say the word right. But it's turning into a militaristic issue. And all I want to say is this. When we bombed the hell out of Japan back in World War II, they learned their lesson. I'm just saying. And the left will say, well, bombing them and killing them will make it worse. No, funding them and arming them in the first place is what made it worse. If we destroy them completely, get the message across that needs to stop, don't fund them, don't give them guns, then you take care of ISIS. But radical Islam will always be around. So something new will form due to countries in the Middle East funding them. And what do? We are the big bad United States of America. We use our leverage. We have Donald bleeping Trump as president, for God's sake. Take care of the problem before another ISIS is built, before another Al-Qaeda is built. That's simple. As far as the ISIS chapters outside of the Middle East, because I've heard this a lot, you destroy the base, you weaken the organization. For one, that's why allowing refugees to flood in was a bad idea in the first place. You're allowing all these people into the country, and you have no idea who the hell they are. It's nonsense. But you weaken the organization. With no organization, you have a separation of conduct. It's like the Bloods and the Crips. They'll eventually screw themselves up with no leadership. After that, stay out of foreign affairs. After we take care of ISIS, stay out of foreign affairs. If it does not affect us at all, do not go overseas. Do not help another country. If they do need our help, then pay us. Pay us. Too many countries take advantage of us. I'm tired of us getting taken advantage of, and our economy struggling as a result, and the American people, more importantly, struggle as a result. It needs to stop. Pay us if you want our help. It's that simple. But that's my whole thing with ISIS and foreign policy, John.
That was brilliant. That was well said. I'm not sure that there's anything I disagree with or that I wouldn't have said myself. The only thing that I think a lot of people are underestimating is North Korea, because there is a North Korea issue. A lot of people say, no, North Korea, they can't do nothing. It's coming. There is a North Korea issue. It is coming, and eventually we're going to have to take care of it or figure out what we're going to do, and we're going to have to work with China in order to do that. But that's the only thing I think that's missing from a lot of people's worldview. Aside from that, you know what? I don't care if Craptastic Van goes and tries to attack Libtard Kingdom. Let them do whatever the hell they want to do. Let's stay out of it. If something really crazy happens and we're talking about nuclear war or whatever, or they really need some help, then fine. We'll go and do what we have to do to protect, the lives in the United States. But otherwise, let those countries do whatever the heck they want to do, and let's just stay out of it. You know, we're not going to be able to help the situation any. So, yeah, I pretty much agree with you 100%.
Up next, liberal political analyst, liberal intellect, Kelvin Gravely Jr. He joins us next.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo. Americanism, not globalism. Americanism, not globalism. The era of economic surrender will finally be over. We will no longer surrender this country or its people to the false song of globalism.
They have gotten the political establishment and the media establishment to become pure, wanton henchmen of totalitarianism.
If you were a foreign power looking to weaken America, you couldn't do better than Hillary Clinton's economic agenda.
I think what the Chinese have done is really smart.
The skyscrapers went up in Beijing and many other cities around the world, while the factories and neighborhoods crumbled right here in Detroit.
It's all training us to accept less, lowering expectations, a post-industrial world, a new dark age. That's what the UN Biological Diversity Assessment 1996 calls for.
When we abandoned the policy of America first, we started rebuilding other countries instead of our own.
Not a world, Winston, that gets more beautiful and more technological and stronger. A world that gets uglier and stupider and more stunted.
That the government should allow Hillary Clinton to become president of the United States.
I voted for Hillary Clinton.
Well, I voted for Hillary. I guess I have to since I'm working for her as well.
You want an image of the future, Winston? It's a boot stomping on a human face forever.
Muslims are peaceful and tolerant people and have nothing whatsoever to do with terrorism.
Women are discriminated against in all of these countries she took money against. Gays and lesbians are either executed or punished severely. They're mistreated. She claims to be their champion.
Don't look at me, Winston, and see the black circles around my eyes and see how ugly and weak I am, expressing myself and dying that I torture people 18 hours a day and I have a horrible life. That's the beauty of the satanic evil of the priest of power ripping apart humanity. We're here to hurt humans. We're here to suck your guts out.
Americanism, not globalism. Americanism, not globalism. Americanism, not globalism.
Yo, you want sushi? I got sushi. I got the best sushi. This area's dry, man. You know that. I know that. Ain't nobody selling but me. I got tuna. I got salmon. I got sweet shrimp. I got the finest sashimi this area has seen in years. You need me and I need you. Let's make this work. You buy some sashimi, I'll throw in some rice paper, man. Totally free. Gratis. I got everything. Even California rolls, baby.
You wouldn't buy your sushi from this guy, so why would you buy your marijuana from him? MarijuanaDoctors.com is the only service that connects patients with real doctors for medical marijuana recommendations. Simple, confidential, safe. Visit MarijuanaDoctors.com or call 1-866-996-9333. That's MarijuanaDoctors.com, 1-866-996-9333. Book your appointment today.
I have not only seen but lived the marvels of what historians have called the American century. For while I take inspiration from the past, like most Americans, I live for the future. For just a few minutes, I hope you will let me talk about a country that is forever young. Fondest hope for each one of you, and especially for the young people here, that you will love your country not for her power or wealth, but for her selflessness and idealism. May each of you have the heart to conceive, the understanding to direct, and the hand to execute works that will make the world a little better for your having been here. Renew our pledge to day by day, person by person, make our country and the world a better place to live. When the nations of the world turn to us and say, America, you are the model of freedom and prosperity, we can turn to them and say, you ain't seen nothing yet.
You are now listening to Unpopular Popularity with Andrew Powell and John Stutsman here on New Media Central.
Now joining us is the liberal political analyst and liberal intellect, Kelvin Gravely Jr. Went to high school with this guy, debate politics with him nearly every night. A lot of interesting stuff going on. This guy can compete with anybody, whether it's anybody with the left, anybody towards the right in a debate. I've seen it happen, particularly on Facebook. This guy is intelligent. Cannot brag about him enough. Now, let's go ahead and get into what John had said originally. And Kelvin, I want to ask you this. John said that liberalism is a mental illness. How do you respond to this?
I do think that's an interesting perspective, but I would disagree pretty heavily because on a basic level, I think liberalism is more about compassion and empathy and how you see the world. And conservatism is kind of I want to say fear and security, which, don't get me wrong, fear is not bad, but I think at a certain point it's whether you care about yourself or whether you care about other people more. You see what I'm saying?
That actually makes sense. No, that really does. And let me make a distinction here that I probably should have made. There's runaway liberalism. There's libtards. These are people. I don't think these are you. And I can read people. But I'm serious. I can read people just from their
John,
first few words
they
say.
Agree, though. Well, John, you have to agree that there's a difference between a liberal and a leftist. When you agree with this?
Well, I would. And I'm going to say that the people at the bottom of the liberal ladder, the normal Joes, the me and yous, they genuinely, and I'll agree with him on this as well. They genuinely believe what they believe is best for everyone, and they really believe that. They're very passionate about it, and I can relate to that. And that's great. And he's right. The right is very protectionist, or I don't want to say fear. You said fear. Fear is a little drastic.
Yeah.
But it's a very I don't want to say militaristic either, because I don't want everyone to think that we're going to come out with swastikas and because that's not what it's about either. But but there is these people out there protesting and rioting. They're libtards. They have a mental illness. These people crying in their pillows and needing Play-Doh and stuff at school because they can't cope with Donald Trump being president. They are libtards. They have a mental illness. That's kind of what my stance on that.
It's tough. I know the media, they push an agenda that's trying to scare these people into action. So I blame them a lot, because if you separate these people from the groups, I don't think they would be near as bad. But when you get them in this mob mentality, they just go with the flow and copy everybody else. So I think the media is heavily responsible for the behavior you're seeing out of these folks,
Sure.
But Kevin,
don't
let
you
me
think
ask
that also
you,
pushes...
go ahead, John.
Well, I was just going to say, I was going to ask him, but don't you think that kind of pushes the right side of the spectrum away even further? Because that's how I feel. I see it, and it may not be what's the mainstream's happening. It may not be the most, populist amount are doing these crazy things. But when I see it and it's reported on, and I see this mob mentality, it pushes me further away instead of trying to bring me closer to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I can totally see what you're saying, but I'm not certain what came first. Is it the chicken or the egg? Was it the right pushing farther away, as with the Tea Party movement and Ted Cruz, or was it these kind of liberals rioting because they see what's happening? What came first? I don't know.
True, and we can all be honest. Ted Cruz is a mentally insane retard. I mean, let's just be honest.
Oh, wow.
He really is.
I mean, let's be honest here, John. You could have used completely different terminology to describe him. I mean, we understand what you're saying, but the terminology, that is amazing. Kelvin,
Yeah, I
let me
wouldn't
ask
agree
you.
with that wording, but I would say he does evoke a lot of emotion.
Yeah, Kelvin, as a liberal, how do you feel overall? What are your overall thoughts about Donald Trump being our president?
Yeah, honestly, I'm totally all right with it. I realize that's the democratic system. You know, you win some, you lose some, but overall, that is the person in the office, and you have to respect that office. So, I'm not exactly happy about it, but you know, as somebody who leans left, I was not at all happy with Hillary Clinton because I saw her as a moderate at best, and then a conservative at worst. I didn't see a win in either of those candidates for myself, so I'm okay with it.
You voted for Obama in 2008. You voted for Obama in 2012. You decided not to go blue this election. You actually voted for Jill Stein and the Green Party. So either way, you're on the left, but have you transitioned from blue to green? And why did you vote for Jill?
You know, it's tough, you know, because honestly, I keep saying this to all my friends that I don't think Donald Trump won so much as Hillary Clinton lost. Because all of my friends that do support Trump, that wasn't their first pick. You know, they wanted Rubio or any number of other people. Carson, he's really popular. But I didn't know very many people that was like, oh, Trump, that's my guy, until it was versus Hillary, because they realized that, you know, she is a criminal, she's got questionable character, and they kind of go any way away from her. And even if he's that other candidate, he's better than her in many opinions. So even on the left, I mean, you were a Bernie supporter yourself, and when you knew it was Hillary, then you went the other way. So I can totally see how that works.
Yeah, that's just the unfortunate part of the two-party system that we need to destroy. But as far as Donald, back to this. Have you decided to transition completely from the Democratic Party to the Green Party?
You know, it's tough, man, because realistically, the Democratic Party has a better chance of winning high office. We have a handful of seats that are taken by the Green Party, but they're just not that popular, and it's a two-party system, like you said, so it's tough for them to gain that popularity. But as far as their platform goes, I'm more on board with their platform as it stands than I am the Democratic. So for right this second, then, yeah, I would be Green.
The left media is trying to portray Steve Bannon and Jeff Sessions and basically the entire cabinet of being white supremacist racists. Do you agree with this logic, Kelvin?
You know, it's tough, man. I don't want to sit here and call people a racist necessarily, but just looking at some of the things that they're for, I'm opposed to. So, you said Jeff Sessions. For him, he's a climate change skeptic, which I think you agree is a big issue in today's world, and he doesn't recognize it at all. And then he's tough on immigration, which you pointed out, which is good in a sense, but not strictly illegal immigration. He is against legal immigration as well. He's halting visas and stuff for legal immigration to work and have us bring better suited employees in, And then another thing that's big for you, I know, would be that he's against marijuana. And as the head of the federal government, he has a huge impact when it comes to legalization, because even though these different states are making it legal, it's still illegal at the federal level. And as you know, in the Article 6 Constitution, the Supremacy Clause says that any federal law supersedes any state law. So if he was to press it, he would totally win that argument because of that, So that's kind of scary for the marijuana advocates, you see what I'm saying? And then on Steve Bannon, I mean, he has ran a very, very right conservative website, news media outlet, and, just speaking from other conservatives, like Glenn Beck, for example, he called him a nightmare, compared him to Joseph Goebbels, the minister of propaganda for the Nazis. So he's got his own kind of downfalls, but it's just a kind of question for you. You remember when Trump said that he wanted to open up the libel laws and make it easier to sue the press? How does that work when you have, as your chief strategist, a guy who ran a press company? How does that work?
How does that work? John,
Well,
that's great.
it's
What?
simple. I don't. What's so hard to you blatantly lie? You can get sued. I mean, that's just the he's going to be fair to the people on his cabinet and his administration, just as he would anybody else. You're part of the press. You better tell the truth. Now, you can have an opinion about things. There's certain things you can have an opinion on, of course, on how to accomplish the same task. Which let's be real. And I hope this is the truth, and I want to believe this with all my heart. Both the left and the right want the same things in the end. We just have completely different ideas on how to get there. So he's going to be fair. If anyone would be fair, it'd be Trump. I wouldn't trust a Hillary Clinton or a Bernie Sanders or any of these other wackos that were running.
Oh, be careful, John.
Be fair.
He's a Bernie guy. Kelvin is a Bernie guy.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing about Bernie guys. Here's the thing. And what people don't understand is that the things that they really loved about Bernie are the same stances Donald Trump has had. Like, that's why I don't understand. Like, especially on the economy and foreign affairs, like their agendas were almost like identical. Like, it blows my mind how they think it was just totally the opposite, because that's not the truth.
I wouldn't say they're exactly the same, but I mean, as far as the getting out of these free trade agreements, they were very similar. But I mean,
Absolutely.
If you look at how they planned on spending that money, they were completely different. I mean,
well, sure,
Bernie was not. Yeah, Bernie was not trying to keep adding money to the military budget as Trump has advocated doing. And Bernie wanted to, make affordable health care for all, affordable college. So, I mean, they had kind of a different aspect, but they did have that same sentiment of, no free trade, because they thought it hurt the country. So they did have that anti-establishment, different from the normal routine going. So, yeah, I
Absolutely.
can see that.
Well, you got to be honest, too, that Trump wants affordable health care. You cannot say he doesn't, because that is part of his platform. He may want to spend the money differently in some areas, but I think they both wanted infrastructure improvements, did they not?
They did
I
both
think it's
say
something.
that, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So and I'm sorry, you have to have a strong military, and our military, I know because I come from a military family, and I've seen it. It started with the Clinton years, and I had family in then, and the conditions that they had to do their work.
I just want to point out real quick before we continue the debate, when you bring in the military, Kelvin is I don't believe that you're still in it, Kelvin, are you? But you're a former Marine, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Oh, excellent. Thank you very much for your service. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. But, speaking on the military, I know that, having a strong military kind of goes in with that conservative, they want to be prepared for anything that could occur. It's kind of that you never know what's coming around the corner mentality. But as far as our military goes, we spend more than the next 10 countries do. So that's all of your big nations, Great Britain, France, Spain, all of them, plus 7 more, and we spend more than them. So I don't think strength exactly a question.
No. And this goes the same for education. It's not how much money you spend, it's how you spend it. Because the money is being spent, but it's being spent in the worst possible way. I mean, it's still allocated to defense spending, but the way it has to be spent because of lobbying and all these things, it really doesn't get spent in the areas that it needs to get spent in. So I absolutely agree. The spending is astronomical. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely agree.
And I'm totally against the spending issue. But you got to also keep in mind, if you're going to Trump's cabinet picks, he did choose as his chief of staff, if I'm correct, so correct me if I'm wrong, but Reince Priebus, who was the head of the Republican National Committee. And, I mean, this guy, he has a lot of success, and he's got a majority in the House, Senate, local levels, and, of course, now the presidency. So he has been a good head. But being the head of the Republican National Committee, how does that play towards Donald Trump's anti-establishment appeal, Because that was his big thing, was he was anti-establishment, but is he really? If his chief of staff is the head of the Republicans?
Oh, I'm sure he is, because he has to have some establishment. I mean,
he's got Mike Pence, don't he?
Well, but let's be honest. The vice president has extremely little power. I mean, his power is basically if something were to happen to the president. You know, I mean, yeah, he acts as an advisor, sure, but you have to get buy-in. And the thing is if Trump doesn't get buy-in, at least some establishment people in his cabinet that he can work with, then he's not going to get to buy-in in the Republicans either. Because let's be honest, he wasn't really a Republican candidate. He was an independent candidate that ran Republican. If he doesn't get the Republican buy-in, then he still can't get anything passed. So he has to kind of have that. He has to work with them. But I think the fact that everyone hates that, he's Bannon and Flynn and Sessions, he's got those people, like everyone hates that right there, should prove that he's sticking to his guns as far as let's drain the swamp of people, of these establishment people. I mean, I see your point. And I do want to say that you're actually awfully reasonable. Are you sure you're on the left of the spectrum?
Yes, he is definitely extraordinarily on the left. I kind of want to shift topics here. This is what is going to show his liberal side, John. This is when you're going to see the full liberal come out. Somebody had made a statement on one of my posts the other day. I can't remember what post it was. I believe it was about the whole LeBron James, Phil Jackson story. But somebody had said that black people, minorities, period, cannot be racist in the United States of America. You actually had liked this post. You agree with this post. Do you care to explain that logic to me whatsoever? Because it's complete nonsense to me.
Yes.
No, yeah,
I do
can
want to
totally
debate you on
this. Okay. Well, realistically, if you look at this is basically semantics, okay? So the definition of the word racism, as defined by, say, Merriam-Webster, the belief that race is the primary determinant of human traits and capabilities, and that these racial differences produce an inherent superiority of that particular race. So, to carry out an act of racism, one must have power or privilege over another group. So, for black people to ask for civil rights, as they have in the civil rights movement, and even Black Lives Matter today, they're not proclaiming their superior order as KKK has been doing. They're only saying that they're just as good as whites. So they want equality under the law. So, I know you can sometimes see these crazy blacks like Marcus Garvey. He was pretty out there. He was all about black nationalism, but it's more often than not, they just want equality. They want the law to represent them fairly. So I want to just give you some examples of our country's history that show this kind of inherent racism and how the racism has power behind it, and that's the big separating thing. So for the House of Representatives, we've had 10,866 members to hold an office there, and out of those 10,886, 138 have been black. Out of our 1,963 senators, 9 have been black. Out of 227 years of having a president, only 8 of them have been, a person that is not white. So I think the real big issue here is whether a group thinks they're superior and has the power to enact that, the inherent superiority complex. So if you're looking at it strictly on semantics, then yes, minorities cannot be racist because they don't have the power to, change people's lives. You see what I'm saying?
So all the white hate that's been existent over the past 8 years, what do you classify that as? Not racism. What is it?
That would be considered prejudice.
Prejudice. But that's
okay,
not
well,
race.
and I see your point. There's semantics to it, but the people the normal, average, everyday Joes, they're not looking at the semantics like you are. And I applaud you for looking at the semantics because we need more people like you that are looking at what these words actually mean. So I totally agree with you on that. But in common, normal, everyday American life, people are not looking at that, and they're looking at prejudice and racist as pretty much the same thing.
I can agree with that.
And is that right? Go ahead.
Well, let me break in real quick here. White privilege. Let's get to that here in a minute, but I do want to ask you about, I hear a lot of black people say that white people are the oppressors, that white people have oppressed them, white people will still oppress them, Kelvin, is it fair to make the statement that maybe the African-American community has oppressed themselves, considering how they make up 13% of the population? 13% of the population is responsible for 50% of the murder rate. Statistically, the biggest threat towards the African-American male is the African-American male. So is it fair to say that the black community has actually oppressed themselves more than the white community has?
You know, I don't want to go there because just historically, I mean, I'm taking a class now on African American history, and historically, if you look at it, blacks have been suppressed and just kind of put down at every step of the way, from segregation on up. I mean, just in 1967, were blacks and whites allowed to intermarry? I mean, this is ridiculous stuff. Black people weren't allowed to go to the polls without grandfather clauses and poll taxes and literacy tests. I mean, and just even now, the amount of violence perpetrated on blacks by police, and I know you were going to say black-on-black crime, but these black-on-black crime, those people are put in jail. That's why right now the jails are full of black people, right? But those white police officers, they get off, and on top of that, my tax dollars go to fund them. So am I paying my taxes so that people that look like me can go and get shot and be no consequences for that at all? I think that's the larger issue, you know.
Kelvin, statistically, more white people get killed by police officers than black people. And I know what you're going to say. Well, you have to look at the percentage of the population, which then brings up the statistic that I just brought up. 13% of the population is responsible for 50% of the murder rate. So who's exactly oppressing who?
Well, yeah, I can go into that too, because as far as the crime rate goes, usually crime is predetermined by your level of poverty. So if these black people, say, for example, can't get jobs or have been subjugated all their lives and through their grandparents' lives, you know, they grew up in poverty. They're not going to know anything else. So the only way they know to get up in the world, get money, is to be in sports or to go commit crime, be in gangs. So I think that all stems from the same place, man.
Okay. Here's the thing, and I've been kind of taking like 2-word notes because I have a list of things that I would like to challenge you on. Number one, you're bringing up a lot of history. I don't care.
Right.
I mean, we need to know our history so we don't repeat it. But I'm talking about currently. So anything you said about we need to look at the history, let's go ahead and throw that out because that's not where we are now.
No. You can't just throw out history, brother. History builds everything. That's the foundation for our lives.
It does. It does. I'm going to tell you right now.
The Constitution is a piece of history.
Absolutely. But the way we treated African Americans in the past is not how we treat them today.
No, not true. If you look at the laws of the land, those still affect those racism, those prejudices on a legal level. Like I told you, that one that says that blacks and whites can't marry up until 1967. That's my mom's lifetime, man. That is not that far away. So yes, it's still in the legal system. It is history, but it's as much history as the Second Amendment, and you want to uphold that. So you can't just throw out history. That's a very important piece.
I'm not saying throw out history.
Necessarily go by history, though, when nowadays in 2016 we have a black president, we have black mayors, we have black attorney generals, we have black Democrats in power, we have black police officers, we have black millionaires, we have black successful people. So how can we necessarily go by the history still when everything has changed from history?
Well, we had an African American for 8 years running the most powerful country in the world. How is
right? But I told you those numbers, though. I told you out of the 1,963 senators, 9 have been black. 9. You know, out of our 44 presidents, one has been black.
Now, though, Kelvin, the point
you can't help it if they're qualified.
Racist now.
Because those laws are not all from this year. Those laws are hundreds of years old and decades old. Those have came up in our history. There's no way to
John,
negate
you have
that.
to remember when you're talking about the numbers, though.
John, wait a minute. I'm gonna let you get to Kelvin here in a minute. I just want to ask him real quick. So, do you believe in institutional racism? Does institutional racism exist?
Absolutely, yes.
What law can you provide me to provide evidence to this?
Let's see. Well, which one do you? Okay, we'll go back to the 1960s then. That will be one that comes to mind. When segregation was outlawed through Brown versus Board of Education of 1954, and it didn't start to get implemented until the mid-60s. One of the things that a school in Virginia did to not have to pay for blacks going to these public schools that were now integrated was they just closed all the public schools in the county and opened a private school called Prince Edward, something like that, and that was the whites only school, but it was privatized. So they weren't breaking the law technically, but they were implementing institutional racism still. You see what I'm saying?
John, is that fair to say?
I mean, that's a drop in the bucket compared to everything else that I have right now. I really
not
I mean, does it? Sure, but I mean, I think it happens on both sides. There's if we're talking semantically, there's prejudice on both sides. Here's the thing, and this, you had. I don't even know where to begin. So you said we don't have a lot of African Americans in positions of power, right? And I want to go back to this because I have a great point about this.
Well, John, wait a minute. I'm going to give you the opportunity here in a minute. So we've only got about 15 minutes to go on the show. I'm going to get Kelvin on again next week, and we're going to continue this discussion. But, John, go ahead and throw one last question at him because I already told Kelvin I'll only have him 15 to 20 minutes. This has been way longer than that.
Oh, snap. Okay, yeah.
Go ahead and throw one question out of here.
I will say, you've been a great guest.
Oh, absolutely.
No, you're a great guest. We'll definitely have to have you back because this is great. No, and the thing I want to end with here, there's so many other things. I'll keep them for the next time you're on. But you said you had a complaint about how there's so few African Americans in positions of power in government. Well, of course, there's going to be a lot less African Americans in government when they're only 13% of the total population to begin with. They are the minority. So they're going to be the minority in any cumulative group that you make in this country. I don't care, race, prejudice, whatever, it doesn't matter. They are the minority group in numbers. So, of course, there's going to be less of them holding office. And that's going to mean that there's even fewer that are actually qualified to hold those higher offices. Just like in the pool of white Americans, there is not all of them are actually qualified to hold office. There's a smaller pool that are actually qualified to do so. So not only they only have 13% of the total population, but the percentage of them that are actually qualified to hold office is what, maybe 1% or less? So you have to, if you're going to use numbers like that, you have to remember how small the population they really are.
No,
That's
I see
my
what you're saying, and I do understand the population difference, but of 13% of the population, there's no sense in it being 9 out of 1,963 senators. That is less than 0.5%. And, that's just across the board. Looking at the state level, it gets even worse. So it's more the institutional aspect of they can't get money to run as a big-name white person could get. You can just keep going. If you just look into the history books, there's no way to just negate this fact. That's evident. There's no way around it, man. There's just absolutely no way.
I think a little bit more than just racism of why there aren't as many black people as white people in our government. And I think that's where we're going to start off our conversation next week. So tune in next week. You'll hear Kelvin. He'll be joining us. We'll continue that discussion because there is some stuff that I want to get into. But Kelvin Gravely, we do appreciate you joining the show, sir.
Hey, man, I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much. I hope I didn't offend you, sir. And thank you for your time.
No. It was good meeting you, man, and thank you.
All right, so Kelvin will be joining us next week. We'll continue that discussion. Let's be honest here, because I think it's a little bit deeper than just institutional racism. But when you look at the statistics of inner-city education, you look at black education is not good. Let's be honest here.
No, absolutely not.
Further than a racial issue, I think it's a culture issue, and we will discuss that with Kelvin next week. And Kelvin's always good to provide great content, so we'll continue that next week. We've got about 11 minutes to go on the show. I do want to get to our platform. If we don't get to through our entire platform, we'll begin there next week. And then that's when we'll be able to provide you guys with actual content, talk about actual stories. Obviously, this is the first episode, so we're getting everything organized. And we've had a lot of fun tonight. This has been a good first show, John. Would you agree?
It has been fun. I apologize if I get a little too passionate and cut in there. I have that.
No, I love it.
I get passionate.
Don't stop that. Love it.
I'm a passionate
so let's
person,
get to healthcare. So let's get to the rest of our platform. Healthcare, we're going to start out with.
Sure.
And healthcare, Bernie Sanders 101 logic for the left. Look, free education is nonsense. Just like teachers who are you to go into an office and demand a doctor for providing you free health care after they spent 12 years busting their ass for a degree? Who are you to rob the doctors and the rich who work for their money? As the great Ben Shapiro says, communism and ignorance is no way to live through life. Lower doctor bills, get rid of the welfare happen charges, get the price of what actual work was provided and what actual resources were used. Also, lower pharmaceutical prices. Medication is way too expensive. Legalize marijuana and increase supply. Also, offer competition to Big Pharma by offering marijuana as a medical alternative to a pill. Marijuana has been proven to help out 300-plus diseases after also legalize it, at least medically. We don't have to legalize it recreationally, but I can settle for at least medically, even though I think it should be legalized recreationally because it would be great for the economy. I mean, if you think of the revenue streams and the jobs the industry will create, it would be absolutely amazing. Also, limit profits for healthcare, or not healthcare, but health insurance companies. Give them enough to pay their employees to pay the bills. Nobody should be profiting off of disease and death. Let's be honest here. Especially not millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. Also, balance out hospital profits the same way. You have to establish caps for these kinds of services. If you establish caps for health insurance companies, if you establish caps for hospitals, establish caps for the government, that way you limit profiting in this, then the cost will go down. The reason why the cost is so high right now is because these hospitals and these insurance companies and the government want to make millions upon millions upon millions of dollars from healthcare. That's what's going on. One of our top revenue streams in this country right now is healthcare. If we do everything that I said we just do, limit profiting, put caps into every service that is involved in the healthcare prices will drop dramatically. I'm willing to guarantee that. But that is my whole view on healthcare, John.
Well, that's a pretty middle-of-the-road stance. I have a radical take that I think probably very few people will actually agree with me on. And I know I probably won't get any Republicans to agree with me on this. The problem with healthcare is we've let insurance companies run it. So in my perfect world, we do not allow insurance, health insurance. None, zero, zip whatsoever. You pay what you have for what services you need. So what happens when you do that is that first, people are going to be a lot more picky about when they go to the doctor. They're only going to go when they really have a real need to go to the doctor. That's going to drop you might not have these huge gobs of people in hospitals and clinics waiting in line forever to see a doctor. Because you're not going to have people going for frivolous things, okay? That right there will take some of the cost down once you start doing that, okay? Then the hospitals will actually, and the clinics and the doctors will have to compete on their prices much, much greater than what they do now. So MRIs, $1,000 at Hospital A, well, guess what? Hospital B wants you to go to them, so they're going to make it $900 or however. They're going to compete a lot more because they don't have an insurance company that they know they're going to get the money from anyway. So that then will lower the cost. And then you're going to wonder, well, how these hospitals and stuff are going to recoup these losses. Well, they no longer have to pay out they're going to get what they've earned. Because right now the insurance companies are paying all this money out and taking all this money in. It's just they're controlling the prices. The prices are all controlled by the insurance company in the entire healthcare industry. So that's kind of my take. Realistically, I kind of like Trump's plan. Open up competition across state borders. Let's not mandate anyone get insurance. If you don't want it, whatever. Let people have health savings accounts if they can pass along. I think that's great. I used to have a health savings account before I had my stroke. It was amazing. Loved it. Loved it. It was probably the best insurance I've ever had, to be honest with you. There's a realistic version of what my platform is, and then if I was president, this is what I would push for.
We'll get to one more, then we'll continue the rest of our platform next week. Let's close it out with the immigration, which is also always a popular one. My stance on immigration, illegal immigration, build that wall. I am all for building a wall across the Mexican border. It doesn't have to necessarily be a full-out brick wall. Just at least have some border to protect, or have a border to protect our border. Let's just be honest here, because explain to me how it's racist to say that the legal Mexican immigration is negative when 17% of the population is responsible for 37% of the murder rate. How is it racist that statistically illegal immigrants, who, by the way, don't pay taxes nor pay for their own health care, drain the economy? How is it racist when you preach about equality for all, but yet you have no problem if some pay taxes, but others don't, yet you get mad at Trump for allegedly not paying taxes? How is that morally right? Isn't the left a side of morals? The left is full of belief. The left is full of lies. The left is full of contradictions. The left is full of nonsense. Build a wall and force people to come in here and register into the system. They have to pay taxes like the rest of us. Let's be honest here. Let's be fair here. That's the whole leftist argument. Let's be fair. Let's be fair. Absolutely. Everybody has to pay taxes. As for deportations, people in this country illegally who are breaking the law need to be sent back, register legally, and then you're free to walk all across the country. We have to protect our borders. We have to protect our economy. We have to protect Americans. I'm sorry, but America comes first. Globalism is nonsense. Come into the United States illegally, and then there will not be an issue. And as far as sanctuary cities, for example, Chicago, the mayor of Chicago said the city will remain a sanctuary city and that Hispanics will be safe. So about 37 people were shot and killed last weekend in that city. Safe? Your city isn't safe. Illegal Mexican immigrants have statistically been proven to create a high crime index in these cities. Go by facts, not by feelings, which these other cities are standing up there to lose funding. Have fun with that. If you want to view me as a racist for that, oh well, but facts don't care about your feelings. In the great words of Ben Shapiro. That's my all-time favorite quote in politics now, other than Donald Trump's. We're going to win. We're going to win so much, we're going to get tired of winning. Love it. Those are my two favorite political quotes of all time. But that's my whole stance of immigration. John, go ahead and report. Not of all time, obviously.
Well, I actually have a question for you. Because immigration is kind of a tired subject for me. You said everything great. I don't disagree one bit. So I have a question, and then depending on how long you take to answer this, I might have a little tidbit. Did you feel this way when you were a Bernie Sanders supporter about immigration?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've never, ever, ever agreed with Bernie Sanders on the no borders policy. I do not agree with Bernie Sanders when it comes to sanctuary cities. I have never agreed with Bernie when it comes to illegal immigration because he sees it as a racial issue instead of a legality issue, and it's not a racial issue at all.
You're right. No, and absolutely, that's brilliant. I love it. If anyone out there listening to us tonight is afraid of this whole immigration thing, they don't believe what Andrew Powell just said, which he said very, very eloquently. It was on the spot. If you don't believe that, I just heard on news the other day, somebody were talking about how we need to separate illegal immigrants from criminals because they're not one and the same all the time. But listen to that again. Illegal immigrants are not criminals. Illegal immigrants are not all criminals. Yes, they are absolutely all criminals. It's in the very definition of illegal criminal. You can't have an illegal immigrant that's not already a criminal by the very fact that they're here illegally. And that's all I'm going to say to support what Andrew just said.
Yes, it's like I was having this debate with somebody the other day, and they were telling me, well, maybe you shouldn't use that terminology of "quote unquote" illegal alien because it could be offensive. And I'm sitting here, well, wait a minute, how are facts offensive? How are facts that is the correct terminology? They are illegal aliens, they are illegal immigrants. So please explain to me how that is incorrect terminology. The political nonsense is over. The politically correct nonsense is over. It is over. The PC culture is over. Donald Trump has been elected. Let's get over it. Facts do not care about your feelings. Facts do not care about your feelings. Facts do not care about your feelings. I cannot say that enough. I love that quote. I'll say it one more time. Facts do not care about your feelings. We'll be back next week to continue our platform. We'll have Kelvin back on next week as well to discuss the rest of the racial issues and other stuff going on with Donald Trump in the political realm. And yeah, we'll be back next week. Have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, ladies and gentlemen. And enjoy NFL football tomorrow, because I know a lot of people watch football. So enjoy that pigskin, baby.
You are now listening to Unpopular Popularity with Andrew Powell and John Stutsman here on New Media Central.
Black activist on activist, I hold she the LSD, but that ain't for the mattress. Ask your bitch, my stroke is immaculate. I send her insane, I'm flashy as an acid trip. Just me and a rusty burner.
The United States Postal Service knows holiday wish lists better than Santa himself. Really?
Dear Santa, this year I've been really good. Like, really, really good. And that's why I'd like a hippo hat, hippo gloves, and hippo sunglasses. And maybe a hippo coloring book.
During the holidays, we deliver, especially when it comes to hippos. In fact, we deliver more online purchases to homes than anyone else in the country. No matter what's on your wish list, our priority is you. The holidays can get a little competitive. Whose house is covered in the most decorative lights? Whose sweater is the most festive? Whose gingerbread house is eaten the fastest? Whose gift is most thoughtful? Well, there's one part of the holidays that's not a competition, and that's who brings you those gifts. Because at the United States Postal Service, we deliver more online purchases to homes than anyone else in the country. That's right, anyone, even you know who. Ho, ho, ho! The United States Postal Service. Priority, you.